Does the Canon M6 Mark II really suffer from shutter shock? And if so, is it something you have to worry about in real-life situations? Both of these questions will be answered in this video. I am Matej, and on this channel I'll share tips for taking better pictures with the Canon EOS M system. If you use these cameras, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content about these wonderful little cameras and lenses. First, I'll give you a little recap on what has been published about this shutter shock issue, and then I'll go over my photo test to see the shutter shock effect in real life. This is the official Canon website, and when we click on specifications and then down to shutter, we can see that the camera has two types of shutter: mechanical first and second curtain and a fully electronic shutter. This is noteworthy since this camera does not offer electronic first curtain shutter. With electronic first curtain shutter, or EFCS, the start of the exposure is initiated electronically without any moving parts. EFCS is useful since any mechanical movement at the beginning of exposure can theoretically shake the camera and result in unwanted motion blur. This phenomenon is referred to as shutter shock. Shutter shock has been an issue with other camera brands even in recent years, but not for Canon, since apparently Canon has been using electronic first curtain shutter in most of its cameras for years. And EFCS is included in other Canon cameras like the higher end EOS R. Here you can see all three different types of shutter. But who cares? Both shutter modes work great in general shooting. Does the lack of EFCS degrade image quality? Based on the internet, it does. This issue was first reported in a review of the camera at deepreview.com, but it is buried in the image quality section and they themselves don't seem to be too concerned about it. Here in the shutter mode section they say, the mechanical mode is fully mechanical, meaning it doesn't appear to use an electronic front curtain shutter or EFCS. A fully mechanical shutter generally comes with the risk of a shutter shock or slight image softness due to the mechanical movement of the shutter. We noticed some softness from this effect in shooting our studio scene, but we were hard pressed to find it impacting our images in more casual shooting. To be honest, I was not aware of it since I bought the camera before the review was published, and I did not bother reading it once I had the camera. I was first alerted to this potential issue by CanonNews.com when they published a detailed analysis of shutter shock in the Canon M6 Mark II. Generally, shutter shock is a problem at medium shutter speeds, and it's particularly pronounced at longer focal lengths. So they did a test with the EF-M 55 to 100 at 200 millimeters between 1/400th of a second and 1/10th of a second. They saw high resolution in pictures taken with the electronic shutter at shutter speeds between 1/200th of a second and 1/10th of a second, with 1/80th of a second being about the worst. The shutter shock is not as pronounced at 55 millimeters with this lens, which is quite interesting. I don't have the EF-M 55 to 200 millimeters, so I can't test the issue with this lens. But they also tested the kit 15 to 45 millimeter lens, which almost everyone with M camera has. At 45 millimeters, they saw the same issue at medium shutter speeds. At 1/80th of a second, the electronic shutter clearly delivers high resolution, at least based on this chart. That's enough background. Let's see the effect of the shutter shock in pictures. I chose to replicate the setup from Canon News as much as I could. I put the Canon M6 Mark II on the flimsiest tripod I own, extended the middle column all the way up, and put the camera in a vertical orientation. To maximize the possible sharpness, I wanted to take the pictures at lowest possible ISO, ideally 100, medium aperture, so around f8, and shutter speed of 1/80th of a second, since that was the worst shutter speed in the Canon News charts. To minimize any camera shake caused by me, I took all the pictures with a Bluetooth remote. Because all three exposure parameters are set, it is quite difficult to do this experiment with natural light, since you have to wait for the right light levels. To make it simple, I just took a picture of a house across the street and waited for it to get appropriately dark. I took the first three images with fully mechanical shutter and the last three images with fully electronic shutter. I did this to make sure that I can get the best possible image with each shutter type. But I did not see any differences between images taken with the same shutter type. So to keep it simple, I'll just compare the last picture taken with the mechanical shutter and the first picture taken with the electronic shutter. When I fit the images to the screen, I obviously can't tell a difference between the two. So let's try at 100%. When I look at the images at 100% on my MacBook Retina screen, I can see a slight difference between the two, the electronic shutter being a little bit crisper. Now let's look at 400%. Now I can see a clear difference between the two. The hinges around the window are clearly more detailed. Also, the texture in the wall is more visible. And just for fun, here is 800% magnification. It tells about the same story as the 400% magnification. But it takes some serious pixel peeping to see the differences. So what do you think? Please write a comment if you see a clear difference between the two, and particularly if this issue would make you reconsider buying this camera in the first place. What is interesting is that Canon News did not observe a significant shutter shock with the 35mm prime lens, which is my favorite lens for the EOS M system. They hypothesized that the shutter shock might be the most visible in cheap lenses with image stabilization because the lenses don't have a proper mechanism to lock out the IS element. Is the shutter shock effect real? Yes. Is it something to worry about? For general photography, no. But if you are taking pictures of static scenes, let's say landscapes, architecture, and still life, I suggest to switch to the electronic shutter. One of the reasons I bought the M6 Mark II is to take advantage of the high megapixel sensor. So you might as well use the best possible technique while taking pictures. If you found this content useful, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on my future content on tips using the Canon EOS M system. I'll see you in the next video.